What do you make of Doug Pederson taking somewhat of the underdog role again, trying to carry it over from last season? It worked last year. I don't feel like it fits or works this year.
No, it's not working this year because it's obvious that you're getting every team's best punch because every team is trying to measure themselves against you. You are the reigning defending Super Bowl champ. But that's a conversation that you have with your team during training camp. It ain't a conversation that you have in Week 7. So Doug Pederson coming out and say it's a player's game, the guys have got to go out there and make plays. Well, you got to put those guys in positions to make plays. I mean, I don't understand.
He had to catch himself. He realized he had made a mistake in doing that.
Yeah, you don't come out and say that in the media. And beyond that, you don't have a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter at home and only run the football once when you have one of the best offensive lines in football.
That's crazy.
Tell me what part of the game is that. Tell me what part of the game is that. I don't even understand that. We praised this team last year, and we said that they matched up well against anybody, even with their backup quarterback. Why? Because they got better big people than everybody else. And so those big guys are what allows them to compete. So why didn't you lean on your big guys in the fourth quarter when you had a lead? Like, I can understand the defense not being able to get after an elusive quarterback in Cam Newton, not being able to make plays on him, get some sacks, maybe create a turnover, those types of things. But offensively, there's no excuse. There's no defense for only running the ball once when you have that group. I don't care who your running back is, whether it's Smallwood, whoever you got back there. That offensive line is what's the catalyst for that run game. They didn't take advantage of that, so they gave one away. Credit to Carolina where credit is due. They scored on 3 consecutive offensive possessions on touchdowns, so you have to tip your cap to them. But that's not a game that you can let get away if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug Pederson.
It's a terrible loss for Philadelphia. It's the second time they've blown a double-digit lead against a team theoretically they're better than. Tennessee, they blew a 17-3 lead to Tennessee. Then they blew a lead in overtime. They couldn't even get a stop in overtime to win that game. They blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter to Carolina, a Carolina team that up until the fourth quarter was just drawing dead offensively. McCaffrey had another game where he couldn't run the ball. That's 2 games in a row, 7 carries for 29 yards. Show Cam's numbers through 3 quarters. Cam was doing nothing through 9 of 17, 68 yards, a 63 rating. And then in the fourth quarter, he lit them up. Cam was spectacular in the fourth quarter. And while the Eagles are, I think it's more noteworthy there, them falling off the way they have, where they've only played, in my eyes, 1 great game all year, and that was 10 days ago against the Giants. See, you wanted to focus on Cam because you made this point earlier, and I think it's interesting. There's a half dozen quarterbacks that if they did what Cam did in the fourth quarter against that team, we'd have led the show with it.
In that building?
Yeah.
Man, we were in that building. We know the crowd support. Up 17 points, heading to the fourth quarter. Like, we know this is going to be a tight, highly contested game before the season. We know in October, when they're on the schedule, man, Philadelphia versus Cam Newton, the Carolina Panthers. That's going to be an exciting game. Philadelphia had the game, dominated the game. But for me, it's not about only just the game, because the press conference is very important. You can win and lose your team in the press conference. So for me, one scene was what happened on the field. And there's no excuse for losing that 17-point lead. But Doug Pederson is trying to find himself as a coach because that press conference was awful. There is no point in my career where a coach came to me and said, there is no pressure on you. No. There's always pressure in the NFL. And I have never heard a coach tell a bunch of players that, especially mid-season, Super Bowl champion. And we think because, Doug led them to the championship last year, that he's not still learning on the job as a head coach. Yeah, absolutely. Listen to that press conference, because those are things you don't tell the media. Those are certain things you only tell the players. Doug Pederson, after the game, struggled, and I'm not surprised to see that the Philadelphia Eagles, I have seen this, teams a year after the Super Bowl, winning or losing the Super Bowl, it's hard to get it going that next year, and that's where the Philadelphia Eagles are, and they don't want to admit it.
So instead of overhauling the Eagles, which they're not going to do because fundamentally they have the personnel there, what's the root of their problem? What's the one thing they can take out and fix for this weekend?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, Jenna. I think they have to get back to who they are. And I kept talking about what Bill Parcells always said, the worst thing you can do in this business is fool yourself. This team won last year because they were a tough, rugged bunch that was hungry. And somehow, some way, they've got to get that mentality back. You don't have that mentality when you blow a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter at home. Right. You don't have that mentality when you blow a double-digit lead on the road and then have an opportunity to close it out with the lead in overtime, and you allow the opposing offense to convert on not one, but 2 fourth downs. Those types of things don't happen if you're a hungry team. So right now, I feel like this is a group that's satisfied, and sometimes, and you're talking about Doug Pederson and his learning curve, as a team collectively, they're learning how to deal with success, and right now, they're failing that test.
Right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.